What's up, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here once again. I'm wearing the same shirt that I was in yesterday's video because I'm filming both of these videos back to back. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I've been in a bit of a Dune mood lately. When I watched Dune, the movie, and then I started rereading the book, and as I was rereading the book, I was Googling around different characters of Dune, and I stumbled upon a message board that specifically was devoted to the Dune universe. The Duneverse, I guess you could call it. I'm sure someone has called it that. If not, that is an extreme missed opportunity. People should definitely get on that. The Duneverse. Anyway, this message board, specifically this thread, this forum that I was reading, was about casting your very own Dune movie, like fan casting. If you could choose the absolute perfect cast to be in a Dune movie. And I was reading a lot of these posts, and I actually agreed with quite a few of them. A lot of them I was like, that is inspired choice right there. Like, this person would be perfect for Paul or Leto or Jessica. And I don't know if it was one person or if it was several people all saying the same thing, but every time one of these people would say, this is who all I would choose, they would suddenly say, wow, that's really racially insensitive. Why is it that you only chose white people? Where are the black or Asian or Latino people in this casting? And this kind of thing has always rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm going to go ahead and say this video is probably going to make some people mad because this topic is very divisive. And there really is no right or wrong answer. There are people out there who adamantly believe that it is 100% wrong if you are going to make a Fantastic Four movie and you are not going to make the Human Torch a black guy. They think that that is straight up racist, even though if you are making a Fantastic Four movie, the character in the comics was originally a white guy. Now, there is nothing that explicitly says that the Human Torch must be a white guy. There's nothing in his character that is attached to that. But at the same time, I don't think that it is inherently racist if you are going to make an X-Men movie or a Fantastic Four movie or an Avengers movie and you only cast white people if the characters were originally white. For example, the original 5 X-Men, all of them were white people. So if you were going to do a movie with the Beast and Cyclops, Iceman, Angel, Jean Grey, Professor X, if you were going to do a movie with those people and you happen to cast white people, that would make sense because those characters were white. And it's this kind of thing where people will say, how dare you not cast any black people or Asian people or Latino people? And this sort of outrage, I can kind of understand it because if you look at comic books specifically, and even though I started talking about Dune here, and I will talk about that a little bit more in a minute, comic books is really where I'm going to be focusing for the remainder of this video. Most comic book characters were created in the 1960s and earlier. There were some that were created later on, like the Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage. Those guys were created in the 70s, but for the most part, 90% of all comic book characters, especially if you're talking about the Marvel and DC universes, those characters were all created in the 1960s, which was a period of civil unrest in the country of America. I don't really know how it was everywhere else in the world, but in America, that was a time period where civil rights were starting to be a thing, and people were saying, you know what, it's not right that this particular portion of the country is treated differently and treated worse than the other half of the country. And so there weren't a whole lot of non-white characters in comic books. And I don't think that, for example, focusing on Marvel Comics, I don't think that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were racist because later on they created the Black Panther character. And he's not a racist stereotype. He is a fully formed character who happens to be black. And he's not, you know, like, for example, in the movie, Roots, which was a miniseries, and I mentioned that yesterday in my Dune review. In that, you know, you've got these characters who are illiterate and they're not very intelligent, and that's because they were brought up in slave capacity. But, like, he's not like that. He's not like a character who might appear in Gone with the Wind, who is just offensively a slap in the face to anybody who might want to see more non-white characters represented in their favorite media. And the thing is, I'm also going to say, in any other media, movies, TV shows, and novels, this is not nearly as much of a problem as it is in comic books. In novels, for example, you have a lot more, you've got a lot more girl protagonists in novels. You have a lot more characters who don't happen to be white. They happen to be some other kind of race. And the thing is, in those cases, usually it's incidental. For example, in the Hunger Games, Rue did not have to be a black girl. She could have been Asian, she could have been white. There was nothing in her character that was tied to her being black. And it was just that she is a character and she happens to be black. And I feel like that's the same way with most characters. For example, in the Dune casting in that message board that I was reading, these people who were getting outraged that, well, how dare you not cast any black or Asian or Latino people in your fan casting? Well, the thing is, like, 80% of the characters in Dune are all related to each other. So if you're going to cast a white person as Leto, well, you're also going to have to cast a white person for Paul, who is Leto's son. And then I guess you could cast someone who's like of mixed race, and then you could have like a black woman play Jessica and a white guy play Leto. You could do that. But then like the Harkonnens, there's like 5 or 6 of them that are all related to each other. And so they all have to be one singular race. And you could have like Gurney Halleck or Dr. Yue played by different actors, and I wouldn't mind if they did that, because I don't think that there's anything in the Dune novel that specifically says that Dr. Yue has to be a white guy. So I wouldn't mind if you had like the guy who played Benjamin Sisko playing Dr. Yue. I think that would be something that could work. Or if you had Morgan Freeman playing Thufir Hawat, I think he would be an excellent Thufir Hawat. So like, you can do that, but don't do it to try and fill your quota. Don't look at the cast of characters that you have and say, oh no, we have too many white characters. We have to make someone black so that we can make that particular section of the fandom happy. That line of thinking leads to bad storytelling. I am not saying that making a character black or Asian or Middle Eastern inherently makes a story bad. I am not saying that. But this line of thinking that says we have to make this character be not white so that we can appease the masses, that line of thinking makes bad stories. It's the same line of thinking that says we need to make the ending of this story a little bit more of a happy ending. We need to have it be more of a generic Hollywood ending to make the masses happy. It's the same kind of thinking, and it makes stories much worse. I don't mind if you're going to have a racially diverse cast, as long as it is an organic thing that just happens to happen. For example, in the story The Sixth Gun by Cullen Bunn, which is an ongoing series at Oni Press Comics, and it is coming to an end, unfortunately, very soon, there's a character in that series who's black, and it's set in the Old West. And he's not a slave character. He's not even like a John Henry type character. He's not a character like that. He's just a character who happens to be black. And I don't mind if they do that. What I don't want to see is we have to make more characters non-white. We have to recast Professor Xavier as a black guy or an Asian guy. And you know what? I did a video a while back where I said, what if we recast the X-Men where all of them were black actors? And I did that mostly because I was interested in seeing if I could pull it off, if I could find enough characters, enough actors in Hollywood who could play those characters believably. And I was pretty happy with the results there. But in that case, that's not even a case of let's make one of these characters black just to appease these people. It was more, let's just see if we can have all of them be black, and then they would all still be their own characters. It's not like you have the token black guy who's here just to make people happy and so that they won't cry racist when they see your story. Also, I feel like these people, they are really hypocritical. Like, way back a few years ago, this would have been like 5 years ago, before the Amazing Spider-Man movie came out, there was some talk that Donald Glover should play Spider-Man. And I was, at the time, I didn't even know who this guy was. I had never seen Community, and after seeing Community, I think that he could potentially be a good Spider-Man. But at the time, I was saying, no, he's too old, because they were wanting, at the time anyway, they were saying that they wanted someone younger than like 27. And then they wound up casting Andrew Garfield, who's like exactly the same age as Donald Glover, so they wound up contradicting themselves anyway. But at the time, I was saying he's too old to play a teenage Spider-Man who is still in high school, because that's what they said that they wanted. And then a lot of people were saying, no, you can't have Donald Glover play Spider-Man, he's black. Now, personally, I don't think that that's a problem. I don't think that there's anything in Spider-Man's character that says that he has to be a white guy. Having said that, I also don't think that there is anything in the character of Blade that says that he has to be a black guy. He's a vampire hunter. As long as you can get somebody who can play a stoic vampire hunter character, you don't have to have a black guy. For example, I think that Karl Urban could probably play a stoic vampire hunter character. He could be Blade if he wanted to. But you would have the same people who are whining and crying that Donald Glover did not play Spider-Man, those exact same people would then be whining and crying that you are whitewashing the character of Blade. And I really yearn for a world. I really cannot wait for the day when this world, when it doesn't matter. When it doesn't matter if you have Halle Berry playing Storm or Jennifer Connelly. It doesn't matter as long as you have a good actor or actress. And now, unfortunately, that world is not going to come anytime soon. It's going to be like 15 generations after I'm dead, but I cannot wait for the day when that happens, because I am so sick and tired of these hypocrites who say, you have to make Professor Xavier a black guy because the X-Men are really racist, even though really they're not. The X-Men are one of the most racially diverse superhero teams ever, and it boggles my mind when these people are saying like, well, these characters who are non-white, they have to stay their race, but then the Kingpin is okay if he's played by a black guy, and again, Michael Clarke Duncan playing the Kingpin, that did not bother me. I liked his portrayal of the character, and I thought he did a very good job playing that character. The Kingpin is an organized criminal mastermind who was a rags to riches kind of guy. He started out with nothing, and then he came into power with everything. And Michael Clarke Duncan, he played that character very well, I think. And there's nothing that says his character has to be a white guy. He's not like a white supremacist type character. Speaking of, the Red Skull. It would not make any sense at all to have, say, Denzel Washington play the Red Skull, because the Red Skull is a Nazi, and therefore, with his Nazi ideals, he has some sort of racist attitudes towards people who are not of the Aryan race. So, it would not make any sense at all to have, say, Denzel Washington or Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman play that character, because the Red Skull is a character who it only makes sense for him to be a white guy, even though technically all you're seeing is a red-skinned dude. But that's one of those things that it's always kind of bothered me. And you know what? There's a solution to this. If you are one of those people, if you see that the Fantastic Four movie doesn't have more racial diversity and you are angry and upset, there is something that you can do. Way back in the 1990s, Dwayne McDuffie and several other non-white comic book creators put together their own little comic book company called the Milestone Comic Book Company. And you may have heard of some of these characters. The most popular one was Static, who eventually went on to get his own cartoon series, Static Shock. This world basically came about because Dwayne McDuffie and all these other people, who unfortunately I can't remember all of their names, they basically said, comic books really are kind of 100% white. There's like 0.05% of characters who are not white. So they went about and said, we are going to change that. They didn't just start complaining about it and keep complaining about it. The thing that I see is that all of these people who are complaining that Spider-Man is not played by a black guy, they're not doing anything to fix this problem that they see in front of them. They see this as a big problem, but they're not doing anything about it. They're just going to sit there and complain, and they're going to yell racist at anybody who disagrees with them. Well, these guys, Dwayne McDuffie, they actually set about to find a solution to this. So they created a world that was a whole lot of black and Asian and Latino characters. Now, there were a few white characters, but it was primarily characters that they felt were not represented very well in comic books. And you know what? Those characters, it was not like Static was the black guy. He had a character. And my personal favorite was Icon and Rocket. That series was amazing. And both of those characters were black. So you didn't have the token black guy. You had a couple of characters who happened to be black, and they both also had personality traits and character traits of their own. And I feel like if you are one of these people, you are yelling and screaming because Wolverine is not being played by an Asian dude, and then you are turning around and you're yelling and screaming because, I don't know, Blade is still being played by a black guy, but someone wants him to be played by a white guy or something. If you are that kind of person, stop complaining and go out there and fix the problem. If you are, and you might say, well, I'm not a comic book writer, I'm not a comic book artist, I don't care. Go out there and film a movie, write a novel, do something, create your own TV series, do something like The Wire, which has like an 80% black cast, do something like that. Do something to fix the problem. If you see this as a big problem, get off your duff and fix it. I personally don't necessarily think that it is a problem. I would like for things to be a little bit more colorblind than what they are, but that's not how the world works. There's people out there who are racist. There's people out there who they hate the fact that Johnny Storm is going to be played by a black guy in the Fantastic Four movie. And they don't really have any valid reasons other than, well, he was white in the comics, so he has to be white in the movie. on the same token, you've also got people who are, in their own weird little way, they are racist about who they want to play characters because they want non-white actors to be playing all of these characters. And if anybody who is white even is dared to be suggested to play, say, Danny Rand in the Heroes for Hire movie, these people will flip their lids. They are furious. And so you've got two sides of this very racist attitude going on, and I just wish it would go away. And I think if you are one of these people who espouse this attitude, maybe you need to do something about it. And that is my own little topic slash rant slash almost call to arms here. Not a real call to arms, just sort of a, this is a revolution that needs to happen. And if you are one of those people, personally I'm not, but if you are one of those people, do something about it. That's all I have to say here. I hope that this video doesn't get too much hate. If you guys do hate what I have to say here, let's try to be civil in the comments. Try to explain very civilly. Don't be a jerk. Just kind of say in the comments why you disagree with me or why you disagree with other people. But let's not be jerkholes about it. If you disagree with me, just let me know in the comments below. And that's all I have to say for this video. I don't know when my next video this week will be. I will try to have something out for you guys very soon. In the meantime, I will see you guys later. Have a great day.